Good afternoon. My name is Anne Madeline Tallegrand, and I'm a peer specialist from Brooklyn, New York, and I would just like to speak to you about some of the things that I do on a daily basis. Hi. I work on an adult inpatient locked psychiatric ward. And every day, any given moment, it is my task to engage with people that may have not spoken to another human being in several minutes, hours, or days. Like any adversity or any contest or fight, if one is not prepared to fight, one will usually lose. So we've heard a lot about hope and love and faith, and a lot about recovery. But when I meet people, the first thing I want to speak about is the fight. During this fight that we are on, sometimes when we are facing mental illness or any kind of emotional disturbance, many times the strategies that we have been using may or may not be correct for the particular fight that we're in. And this type of fight, although the fight may seem unbearable, there are times when we are actually winning, when it feels like we're losing. So during crisis, I always tell individuals that crisis is the perfect opportunity to change something. During a crisis, be it you know it or not, it is the universe's way of telling you that something is happening and you need to move fast. So I help people strategize. And in the strategy, I always ask them first, what is it that you want? What is it that you feel that you have to recover? So the word recovery is awesome because within itself lies the secret about recovery. In recovery, I am not giving anyone anything that they did not already possess. In the word recovery, in the word itself, we find re and cover, which means to go back. Go back and retrieve something that has been taken from you, something that you have missed and something that you need to continue to live. So what we talk about many times with the people that I meet are goals and their dreams for tomorrow. And I know that it seems like during this conversation, someone may be in the throes of psychosis or very depressed or anxious. However, we all have human spirit and we all have soul. And I think when I'm speaking to people, what am I speaking to is actually the human spirit and their soul. And they say things like, Anne, what do you know about depression? What do you know about anxiety? And I say many, many years ago, I too was someone that was in a fight, but I didn't even know that I was fighting or what I was fighting for. And for many, many years, I stumbled through the dark, not understanding that I didn't need light from anywhere else but inside of me. That inside of me, I had enough light to clear my own path to get to where I needed to go. So as I meet individuals on a daily basis, I talk a lot to them about what's going on inside. What do you want? What are your goals? What are your dreams? What has life taken from you that you want back? And many times people actually have never ever had anyone ask them these particular questions. Someone that has been diagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar or depression, a lot of times they feel that there is no hope, that nothing good can happen. However, when someone meets someone else that is able to stand side by side with them and sit in silence many times and just listen, many times that is magic. And I don't know how else to describe it other than absolute magic. I recall when my mother passed away and I was once again dealing with depression once again, I was surprised that the sun actually came up the next day. I remember asking my sister, Paula, are we still alive? Are we still here without mommy? And although she was my younger sister, she said something to me that I will never forget. She said, Anne, it's like a crash scene. She says, you know, during a crash scene, a car is in the accident and there are humans as well. She says everyone eventually has to leave the crash scene. Some go to the hospital, some go home, and the cars eventually go to the collision auto parts place. She said, Anne, we can't stay at the crash scene. And with that, knowing that every crisis, every sad time, every trauma that we experience, it's like a crash scene, and we cannot stay there. We must find a way to move forward. And I speak to individuals about strategy and what is it that you may need to move forward to your next destination in life. And many people It's simple as, I need strength. They say, I feel like I'm weak, I can't do it. And I always say to them, what do you think strength looks like? I ask. And a lot of times people may think strength looks like someone that is, not going through something, or someone that is actually, tougher than the situation. And I always tell them that that is not what strength actually means. We are strong when we are able to ask for help. We are strong when we are able to cry just the amount of tears, enough that we don't drown in them. We are strong when we are able to be angry enough, so angry that we don't let it make us bitter, or we don't let the anger actually consume us. I said it's okay to have every feeling, but the feelings must have an end, and it must have a reason, a purpose. So as I have these conversations with people and I am able to just share with them some of the strategy that I have learned along the years, what it has made me understand is that everyone is going through something, whether it is an Access 1 diagnosis, whether it is, some kind of an emotional disturbance. We all as human beings have some type of an accident scene to move on from. And when I say this, I say that's great because that actually ties us all together. And no one is actually alone, and no one is in a place where they don't need someone else. So on a psych ward, any given day, I find 20 to 30 people that need to talk about something. Angry people, sad people, confused people, but there are people, all nonetheless, still people like me. And what I find so great about what I do is that I get to walk around and just give hope. The Apostle Paul said that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of the unseen. So if faith is the substance of hope, that means hope is heavy. Hope is large, it is huge, it is very important. Hope is not just a fluffy term that we use to just pacify individuals. It is not something that we say just because it sounds right. Hope is everything. Without hope, there is no way that we can wake up one more day. Without hope, there is no strength to fight. Without hope, there is no reason to continue. So when we walk around the hospital and we call ourselves ambassadors of hope, that is what we do. I work in a city hospital that has the biggest peer counseling department in the city, in the state, in the US, probably in the world. There are peer counselors on every part of the service in the hospital, inpatient, outpatient, mobile crisis. Wherever you go, you find peer counselors. And people ask us, what do you do and who are you? And we're always happy and excited to tell them that we were once someone's patient. I was once someone that spoke to a psychiatrist about my feelings of depression and anxiety. And as such a person, I understand what it feels like to be stigmatized and be discriminated against. I also know that people that face certain challenges, they have an extra layer of challenge to deal with, which is what society thinks about the challenge that I'm dealing with. So once again, I come to the situation, every individual, with an open heart and a very clear mind, not giving any answers, not being presumptuous and saying that I know what's going to happen, but just being able to listen to someone and find out what is it that they're dealing with and how can I help them. I received my training at Howie T. Hart Peer Advocacy Center, and we were trained in so many different concepts, and self-determination is a huge one. Someone giving someone else advice is like really cliche, but we don't give advice. We listen and we ask questions and we help someone figure out what they want, what is it that they're trying to deal with, and how they want to deal with it. Many times people are experts on themselves and no one ever asks them for the information that they have, thinking that their ideas and their view on a situation may not be important. However, someone's own view of their situation and what they're going with is the most important information that you need. How is it that you are trying to deal with someone's situation? How is it that we want to help someone or we want to try to fix something and we're not even paying attention, very close attention to what someone is really saying? So this is what we do as peer counselors. This is what we do in the hospital. We make a place that may be very frightening and unsafe. We make it very fertile ground for new birth of new ideas, new birth for newfound strength and newfound outlooks on life. I tell people every day that your mental illness, whatever it is, it's a part of you, but it doesn't have to be the greatest part of you. I tell people every day in the hospital, you're in a hospital, but guess what? You're not connected to any machines, and you have not been given a prognosis that's very bad. You will not die from your illness. And although that seems like something that should be, elementary, it usually brightens up someone's day that otherwise thought the idea of being in the hospital was really awful and not hopeful. So what I want to say to you, clinicians and other peer supporters, I want to say that it's important to look inside of yourself and to use your own unique experiences and instinct when you're trying to figure out how to help someone else. It is within our humanness that I think that we have the most power. Not the words, not what you read in the book, but what you have in your heart. What you have in your heart which is able to, permeate the darkness of someone else's nightmare. And I want to say that moving forward, we don't know where the peer specialty will go, but we do know that it's evolving and it's going to be awesome. And what I want to say in closing is that we all are connected in one way or the other. We are all human beings and we're all on the same journey. Whether you are black, white, yellow, green, red, whether you have a mental illness or not, we've all been afraid. We've all felt lost. We've all felt confused at some point or another. And what's awesome is that we can draw from these experiences to help each other. My name is Tallegrand, and I'm a peer supporter, and I'm very happy to do what I do. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a long day, and we have heard a wealth of information in this room today, so I believe that I won't have very much to say, but I will try to share the experience that I was asked to talk about. I first want to say I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for the very soothing music that has really serenaded a very nervous soul throughout the day. Not only has it soothed me, but it's beautiful, and I want a copy of it, so I'll be looking for that. And I want to thank the organizers and the partners and all of you who have come here today to hear our messages about recovery. I also want to thank the fellow presenters with whom I'm very honored to share a stage. And lest that I forget later, I want to thank Steve Michio, who has been a friend and a mentor to me for over 10 years and actually helped hire me into the position that I'm going to talk about. And that was the Director of Peer Services at Kings County Hospital Center, the hospital center that Ms. Tallegrand just spoke about. I also want to say that several weeks ago, I had the pleasure of speedboating in Cancun, and on the way to the lagoon, several people asked me, was I afraid? And I said, I have just enough fear to make it exciting. And today, I have a little bit more than a little bit of fear to make this exciting, but an opportunity to realize yet another dream. I was invited to the inaugural Meet the Xperts conference in 2013, which was in Utrecht, and I've wanted to come back ever since, and I had the opportunity to come back this year. So I'm very, very happy to be back. I've met so many wonderful people. I've received a number of visits that were led by Rokas Lupig. He brought people to the United States, and one of the institutions or places of healing that he brought people to was Kings County Hospital Center. And interestingly, it was Steve Michio who said, Rokas, you should go to Kings County Hospital because the peer program is growing massively. And I had the opportunity to lead that program for 4 years, so I don't want to talk so much about what I did and what my title was and how I went back to school and how I wanted to get 3 degrees so I could feel a little bit better about myself, but I also wanted those degrees and those credentials as a way of helping me to open some of the doors that a black gay male with a mental illness label and depression and substance use never thought that I was going to be able to break out of the box of hopelessness. I am truly, truly grateful to stand on this stage today and to talk with you about an opportunity that I had to not only grasp my own personal recovery and one day give myself permission to move forward despite the feelings of worthlessness, not that I feel those every day, the feelings of failure, the feelings of being alone, the feelings of not being like everyone else. And I have to tell you, I've walked around here today not looking to see another person of color, but just looking to really take care of myself so that I can come here and share a meaningful message with all of you. And I have to say that everyone I've met who's been brought over to the United States on these tours has been wonderful. And I look forward to seeing you all, and I look forward to meeting more of you. So I've given myself permission to move forward with my recovery. And earlier today, we heard people talk about the gift of having had a challenge. Some call it mental illness, some people call it setback, some people call it emotional discomfort. But I've decided that on those days when I really feel like I can't move, maybe I am depressed, but maybe it's also because I'm doing an enormous amount of things. I'm a full-time worker. Through the grace of a recovery process, I've not only been able to go back to school and to complete a degree, but I've been able to pursue a doctorate. And I am writing my proposal for a dissertation. I'm also teaching, which is something that I've always wanted to do. It's always been a dream since I was a child. I'm in a healthy relationship. I have friends. And I do a lot of this kind of stuff. Not public speaking, but just getting out and about, getting to meet people, trying to work on grassroots projects, really hoping to be an inspiration to others. So what I want to say in a few minutes is that at Kings County Hospital, a job that I never really thought that I would be able to be hired into because I didn't really have a lot of experience managing people, but there were folks who gave me a chance and who saw promise in me. So I went from sort of not really working and not really thinking a whole lot about myself. And then when I entered the world of work, I became exposed to a lot of recovery initiatives in the hospital system that I worked for. There were 11 city hospitals in this network, and one of the charges that was given to me was to help to mobilize peer support services. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was people like Steve and other people who I won't name who I was able to go to and just say, I really don't know much, but this is the job that I have. And that's what recovery is about. It's not one day waking up and saying, I want to be different, so I'll be different, and that's it. But it's sort of like, I'm a little bit afraid, and I want to be different, and I want to do something different, and I need to get humble, and I need to ask for the direction. I need to find people that I can trust and people who will help me and support me. And that's not always the case, because along the way, I've met people and it didn't work out so well, but it's okay, because today I have what I need and so much more. So this particular hospital is one of 11, and at first they had one intern working in the hospital for a number of years, just really to say, we provide peer support services. Then there was a pilot project in 2004 where 4 peers were hired as what they call consumer case managers. And that program lasted for about 3 years. But due to a series of unfortunate events and also a vision that some of the leadership in the hospital had, Steve was called upon, as well as others, to help staff peers in the psychiatric emergency room of this particular hospital. I was then working for central office for that particular corporation, and when the job opened up as the first director of peer services, I was encouraged to apply for it. At the time, there were 9, maybe 12 individuals working the job as a peer, and by the time I was hired into the job, there were 18. So we had peers working on inpatient services, outpatient services, the emergency room, the partial hospitalization program, and there were several other initiatives where the use of the peer was being explored. So in this job, I was not only able to sustain my own recovery by helping others, but I had the opportunity to really learn about hope and resilience from the people that I was charged with supervising. Imagine that, the parallel process of my being able to sustain my recovery because I was willing to be a role model for others when I was yet so imperfect and yet I had so much to learn. But there were people who looked up to me, and what an amazing, humbling experience it was. As I paced the back of the room today, trying to calm my own nerves, I thought about a young lady who was one of the peers, and I will call her Susan, just for the sake of this talk. And Susan came to my office one day while we were doing a training, because I had a large office, and so we had a small training, and I had 4 peer staff sitting at a table in my office, and Susan came to work, and she talked about how incredibly nervous and upset and a whole host of other terms. She felt awful. And she says, "I can't do this, Mr. Edwards. I just can't do this." And I didn't know what else to say to her besides, "But you're doing it because you've shown up." And you know, someone told me in my early recovery that showing up is 95% of it. And this woman is now a 60-year veteran working in emergency services as well as the crisis respite, and she's also working on the mobile team. And she's a true inspiration. She is a hero for me, because even though I had a title that allowed her to come to me and call me Mr. Edwards, I have utmost respect for these individuals that I had the opportunity to supervise. So supervision and supervising people in a large city hospital was not an easy task, but I had a lot of advantages because I had gone back to school, so I had some traditional respect, and I had a lot of people in my corner, and I had some management skills, and I had a lot of hope, and I had really, really good people who wanted to work as peer specialists. And so working in that particular hospital, there were a lot of opportunities to help define the role of the peer, to push back on the attempts at exploitation, to advocate for things, and to really help people to grow. So what I want to say about peer services is that, as Ms. Tallegrand said, we may not know where they're going, but they have truly evolved. And I am so incredibly proud to be part of the peer specialist in recovery movement. I'm so incredibly proud to be here today and to have the opportunity to mount yet another fear, to stand in front of all of you and to tell you that my growth is endless, and I'm looking forward to my continued recovery journey. Thank you.